All right. So, but anyway, um, Shawana, are you ready to bring in our guest?
Yes, I am. I am so excited that we have, and please forgive me, Greg, if I messed your last name up. They messed up my first name, so please forgive me. We have Greg Bakun from the Ghostbox. He does have his own radio show as well. Um, Greg, thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are excited to speak with you tonight. We want to hear everything you have to tell us and then some.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Joanna, and thank you, Stan, very much for having me on tonight. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Greg, do me a favor.
Yeah,
So, so everybody will know. Will you say your last name again?
absolutely. It's Bakun.
Bakken.
Bakun,
Okay,
yeah.
Shawana, me and you got it totally wrong. So, um, that's okay.
Quite all right,
That's,
yeah.
yeah. So, Greg, how long have you been in the paranormal field?
I've been probably investigating for around between 7 and 8 years, I think. I mean, I've been watching shows and stuff before that. I've been very interested in it all my life, but there was a certain point uh, a while back that I decided to take that leap from being on the outside of it and jumping into it, so to speak, and figuring out that, I had a purpose to be a paranormal investigator.
Hmm. I can agree with that because that's kind of the same way I got into the paranormal as well.
Uh-huh.
So you have a team that you direct as well.
Yeah, it's a team of two of us, and that's by design. The whole purpose was to, I mean, there's some teams out there that have a lot of people, and that works very well for them. But we had decided that we were just going to do, at least to start with, two people. Myself, I founded the team, and then Nicole Hopala, who is psychic medium. She's an investigator, but she's also an intuitive, and I think what we both agreed with was that there was a need to have both sides of that, being able to investigate as well as being able to look at things from an intuitive side to help us kind of figure out what's going on at some of these locations.
Yeah, that's cool. Um, so and you and I were talking uh, as we were opening up, and so you guys do a lot of. Hold on a second. Hold on a
Yeah.
second. I don't know what that noise is, but okay. Um, so you guys do several investigations a month. Is that the way it is, or?
I mean, the thing is that we've been lately teaming up with a couple different groups around the area, being a part of things. The thing that's been kind of tough from my perspective is that when you're getting called in to do private locations, it sounds like someone's moving a house over there or something.
Yeah, it does, don't it? I don't know what that is.
uh, it, I think the problem with doing a private location sometimes is when you're doing the investigation, you clear the house, you get everything up and running for the client, and what ends up happening is that that they don't follow the directions that you give, and that they actually are the ones who make the situation worse. And I don't want to speak for Nicole, but I can speak for myself and say that was really that gets difficult because you're trying to help people, but they won't follow your direction. They think that you can go into a place and that you can clear everything, make everything go away in one visit, which that's not the case. And then they don't follow your direction because it doesn't end when we leave. It ends when we give some direction so that they can make sure that house stays clear. And we've been finding that nobody's been doing that. And so there's been stuff that's been coming through that I hadn't really been taking on because it's a lot of work, as you know, Stan. We do the whole thing where we we question people up front. We have a line of questioning to make sure that we kind of see what kind of mental state they're in, what they're doing in their lives, if they've done any drug use, if they've done stuff. What brings these elements together for the paranormal activity. So you spend a lot of time building the case and figuring out what's going on. You're doing the research, and you go in, you do the investigation, you tell the client what they want to do, what they need to do, and they don't follow it.
Yeah, we've run into that same thing. Going in behind a couple of groups and found out that first off, they didn't do their research. Secondly, they had no idea if anybody was taking any drugs or had any mental illness, anything like that. So I agree. And yeah, that's kind of a hard way to go into an investigation when you're kind of going behind people cleaning up.
Well, I mean, it's just that the clients themselves are not doing not doing what they need to do, and they want to put the blame on the investigators. And
Right.
It's like, no, we've been doing what we needed to do. We counseled you on what you needed to do. And they'll be like, oh, well, the activity is back again. It's horrible. Well, have you done this, this, and this? And every single time, and thankfully that they're being honest about it, they're like, no, we haven't done any of that.
Right.
We'll have one after this one.
Yeah.
Y'all should stay tuned to that as well.
Hold on a sec, Greg. Hold on.
Yeah.
Shawana.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, it sounds like, because I can hear myself in the background. Can you turn your radio or whatever it is that you got down a little bit?
Oh yeah, I cut it off because it's not going along with what I can hear.
Okay, yeah, that sounds better for sure. But you're absolutely right, Greg, because we've run into that as well. We give the client a sheet that says this is what you have to do in order for things to stop.
Yeah.
And they don't follow that at all because I think it's because they get into a groove. They think that we're going to go in there and, like you said, cleanse it and it's going to be gone forever. But they don't realize that they were the reason that it was there to start with most of the time.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, I agree. I mean, I think that, people, I mean, it's funny, and I just really thought about it this way. I don't know about you, Stan or Shawana. I don't know about you both, but I mean, the so many of the requests that we would get for people to ask us to come in and do an investigation, they always say, well, there's a demon here. And what it always turns out to be, it always turns out to be their personal demons, actually, that ends up being there. Not to say that there isn't any activity in these places, but it really was it was a great deal of resources being taken up. And I guess this is one of the reasons why you might be like, well, that's why you don't just have two people on a team. But at the same time, it was something that we really felt that we could be able to handle, in just keeping it small and keeping it intimate. And now, kind of a lot of what I've been doing lately, I kind of went a little solo, and I've just been because there's stuff that I want to do and practice, and I wanted to practice my skills with the spirit box. I wanted to spend time creating content that went on our site. And, we were doing a web series that was about going to locations and investigating. But then I kind of also was like, I want to do content that maybe helps people in some way, helps people who tune into our live spirit box sessions, or helps people with, here's some evidence, what we consider evidence, what I consider evidence. You let me know what you think, and you don't have to agree with me, just because I do label them what I think they are, just to save time. But if I've had people listen to it and be like, no, that's not what I hear. And it doesn't mean either one of us are right. That's the cool thing about it. You can interpret it your own way. But, that's why I kind of moved that direction a little bit lately, just because I was getting fatigued, and I was actually getting depressed a little bit by the lack of being able to really break through to some of these people who said that they wanted to help, and they weren't willing to put up their end of it either.
right. So on every investigation that you guys do, y'all use the spirit box a lot. Is that right?
It's funny. I use the spirit box quite a bit, and Nicole does on occasion also. And then we do a lot of events. We'll go up to like the Palmer House, or there's an event that I'm going to, a couple of things I'm doing this year that I'm going out of state for. And I find it funny because I run across other teams who tell me, who are very happy to tell me that we don't use a spirit box. It doesn't really work for us. But more likely than not, when I'm at an investigation and I'm with teams that I don't normally investigate with, the spirit box is the primary source of our investigation. And we tend to get really good results. And it's not because of me, but I do find it funny though that people are quick to be like, "Oh, the spirit box, you can't rely on that. That's not really going to work." But then, sure enough, we're always, it's like, what should we start with? Well, let's start with the spirit box. And like 35 minutes later, we're still using it. And I think that shows that there is some mileage to that device that people, once they start hearing it, they're like, okay, I get it.
Sure. We use the spirit box quite a bit. We have heard things on the spirit box that just, we have like 15 people in our group. Okay.
Yep.
Of course, not every single person is on the investigation just to be investigators or anything like that. We have a lot of support crew members. I have a tech support team that is just out of this world.
Nice.
And, we go in and there's different people using a spirit box. We use the K2 a lot along with it for validation. And we got things on the spirit box that I'm convinced there's absolutely no way that information could have been known by anybody within the room. And it was just so prominent. Class A, if you would, like an EVP. This was just phenomenal. And, I'm looking at the spirit box. Well, how can that be? Because when we first started using it, we didn't get much but a bunch of scanning channels and it was really frustrating. But once we learned how to use it and use it correctly, then we started, okay, so now we're getting things coming through. And so it's a big tool that we use along with our EVPs. And now an EVP recorder is probably the biggest thing overall that we use.
Yeah.
We do a lot of raw EVP work. And of course, there's EVPs going at all the time. We have several EVP recorders, and in fact, I put one in the building wherever we're going, and that's where it stays. We record everything that goes on. So we have that on EVP, and I've actually listened to EVPs of the spirit box, and you could hear what was going on in the spirit box. You get validation of what your question was, but underneath that, you would get a whisper, like it was a totally separate device or whatever, if you will, that you hear that voice from. And it's a different voice, but basically saying the same thing. So when you run into stuff like that, that is like really, really hard to just pass away, as not being paranormal. So and I had asked you in the beginning while we were getting ready for the show, what you thought about some of the apps. Do you use any of the apps or anything?
There's only a couple apps that I use on occasion, and one that we've been using a lot had been the Phasma box, and people get confused thinking that that's a real physical box. I think that's something very similar to what Huff has put out, but this is done by a group in the UK that put this out, and we've used it. Not just me, but other folks that I trust in paranormal. They've used it at. We went to a hotel in Wisconsin that was kind of a raw ground of paranormal because no one ever goes there, and we got amazing stuff. And that Phasma box was fantastic. It had some amazing responses that were, as you know, you want it to be relevant, right, to what you're asking for. You don't want it to,
Sure.
or an ovilist might come up with pancake, and you're like, what's that have to do with anything? But like the Phasma box had a lot of very relevant pieces to it, which was really fun to hear. And then I've used the Echo Box on a number of occasions, and I'm going to be honest. I mean, I was using it on a fairly regular basis, probably about 5 years ago or something, and I kind of let it slip. And with the Phasma box, I think the Echo Box, what you need to do is be able to get those settings right, get the echo correct on it, and get the reverb correct on it. And it's not the same for everybody. It's going to be different for every single person. So what you have to do is you have to make sure that those settings work for you, and then not forget it. That's what I did. I forgot what I needed. And a lot of these things need to take time to sit there and play with it to get it right. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to do the live Spirit Box sessions, because I'm allowing people to see what I'm doing and having them, and they're contributing, which really makes it. But at the same time, I'm taking the time to try out equipment that I may not use very often and may not work as well as others. But heck, I'm having a good time with it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I have watched a little bit of stuff that you've done there on YouTube. That's awesome. I mean,
Thank you.
And some of the stuff there, I mean, it'll make you drop your mouth. I'm like, really? Wow. Now, a friend of mine gave me an app. It's the Sono X12.
Oh, yeah.
And have you used that?
I have used it. In fact, I'm not quite as close to the mic because I'm actually looking it up right now on my phone. Let's see. The Sono. Excuse me. I'm not as cool as you. I have the Sono X10, but I'm on an iPhone. That might have something to do with it. And I want to play more with it because what it has on there, and the thing that I really like about the Spirit Box, and I don't know, Stan, if you're using an SB7, an SB11, or if you're using a hack or whatever you're using. To me, I'm a big fan of the 7, but I'm also a fan. I will only use the older version of the 7s that don't eliminate the white noise as much as the versions beyond 2015. So I've been, tracking these down, these rare relics, so I can use them in case something goes wrong with mine. And that's what I like about the Sono. I haven't got a lot of responses on it, to be honest. But once again, I haven't played with it as much as other things. I've been enjoying the white noise from it. That's been so it's like this feels a little bit legit, and I've seen videos where people have gotten some amazing responses from it.
Yeah. Our last investigation, we really used the Sono X12, and it was pretty awesome at the stuff that we got. Of course, the spirits that were there didn't like me too much. We got a lot of cuss words towards me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you run into that. Shawana, are you moving a table?
Sounds like there's an exorcism going on over at Shawana's.
No, I was actually on mute. That wasn't me. I was on mute.
Oh, really? Wow.
Because your box lights up every time those noises happen, as I see on Skype. So I found it very interesting.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm supposed to be on mute. Well, I don't know.
I can hear.
Yeah, you're loud. Trust us. You're loud and clear.
Loud and clear. But anyway.
Yes, they swear at me.
Yes, and here in the last 3 investigations, some of my crew, like some of my tech guys, like Zach, he's in the chat room now. They were saying "F you," and they would say my name, and then they would say "F you," And it's like, guys, well, they're talking to me. Why don't I shut up? You guys talk. But I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah,
And
it is interesting. With one of the last investigations that we had done as a larger group, we were talking, and one of the relatives who had passed away at the house that we're at told us to F off. And it's not the norm for us to get that, and we're very careful, as I'm sure you all are too, about the whole the whole trying to try to yell at spirits and whatnot. It's probably I mean, it's so strange. I guess it really depends on where you go, right? I mean, we were in a place that someone who was in a lot of pain who passed along and didn't cross. And he was just angry, and so he swore at us. And you get that in other places too, where you just get this these quick words of like "f you" and "go to hell" and "go away," and it's just like, no, I'm fine where I am. I'm not leaving, so sorry,
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's I've had things thrown at me and told to get out and so on and so forth, but I'm not going anywhere. And they can do whatever it is that they feel like they can do. I'm there to try to find the truth and help my client and help them the paranormal field in general. And so I think we're all in this for that same reason. But
yeah.
But as far as the 7, yes, we used the 7. It seems to work a whole lot better. I tried the 11, and I didn't like it. First off, there's too many buttons to push, and it just doesn't work as good as that as the older one. So
yeah, I would agree. I also I find it's very cheap feeling. It's a light plastic, and I don't like the fact they try to stick so much stuff into this device that it has that stupid red light at the front of it that like you can use as a flashlight, even though it doesn't have any focus to it. And then it has like a temperature gauge, and it kind of lights up by the temperature and stuff. And it's just like, boy, I just want a good spirit box. I kind of like the idea that you can do the dual sweep, where I like to go one going forward, one going backwards, and you occasionally get something. But personally for me, so far, everything I've been doing has been, which I don't know about you, Stan, but I find that when I do, when I talk about spirit boxes and people are like, what do you use? I use the SB7. They're like, oh my God, it's SB7. All that white noise, I can't handle it. And it's like, well, you know what? The white noise for me is where I can tell what the spirits are saying, because the spirits' voices float above the white noise, which makes it for me pretty easy to catch what they're saying.
Yeah. If it doesn't have the white noise, I don't think that I would like it at all. You're right. It does. The white noise is a tool, and I think that's the way it was intended whenever it was designed.
Yeah.
And because you have a bunch of white noise, and then all of a sudden you have a word, maybe 2. Okay, that's not. It's scanning through so many stations or through much stuff all at one time. There's no way that could be just a random thing.
No, and for me, the bar for me is when I can get a full sentence from the spirit box. It's the same voice, full sentence, which I do on a very regular basis, and that to me is like, okay, I know that this is from someone, not the radio.
Right. I agree, 100%. Miss Shawana, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I found the right mute button.
Awesome. I have kind of taken over the show. Do you have some questions for Greg?
I do, but that's fine. I mean, we have plenty of time. I have a lot of questions. I probably ain't going to be able to get all of them in. I wanted to know, Greg, have you had any personal experience yourself that you could share with us in the paranormal?
Yeah, in which way? Like, are you thinking like attachments, good things happening? What would you like to know?
I want to know all of it, Greg. I want to know if you had some attachments. Have you seen anything? Do you see things? Do you hear things? Can you pick up stuff? Or, do you have gifts? I told you I had a lot of questions.
Well, and we all have gifts, don't we? I mean, we're all like, if we choose to use them or not, or we're trying to focus them, or we're learning about them, and we're trying to figure out where we fit in, right? I mean, that's something that I always wonder for myself. I know other people do. Where do I fit into this field, or even beyond the field? Where do I fit in this whole metaphysical sort of gallery of what's going on around me? And
I feel that way sometimes.
And it's tough, isn't it? Because you don't know, and sometimes you don't get the right answers that you want to hear, or you kind of test yourself and it didn't turn out the way you wanted, and you're just like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not. And I more and more I find that that my gifts, when I started talking to other people in Minnesota and started my own team and started working with people, I was just like, well, that's what they do. Like Nicole, she's an intuitive. That's what she does. And now I consider myself an intuitive. I consider myself as someone who can pick up things, and that, I'm not as far along as I'd like to be, but I will get there as long as I keep practicing. Like, right? It's the same as like trying to get a muscle. It's like you got to practice it. You got to get it to a point that you're happy with, and to do that, you have to keep trying. Right. And so part of it now is we talked about the K2 validates what the spirit box says, but what we like to do is the spirit box validates what the intuitive says. And that's when you start knowing that you're onto something. When Nicole could be like, is there, I feel like that there's a woman named Vi here, and all of a sudden the spirit box is like, yes. And that's when you know that, okay, now we're into new territory. Now we're into a place that means it's more meaningful than just random words. And that's something that we've been working on very hard over the past 5 years. And it's been really fun to see it's been fun for me to see how I've evolved. It's fun for me to see how Nicole has evolved. We work with another team very closely called Things That Go Bump Minnesota, because we're on the same page. We really we investigate the same way. We're very like-minded, and I'm watching them grow. I'm watching them get better at their skills. And all we do when we go investigate is that we have a very fun time figuring out what's going on and piecing together the mystery, right? Because that's all this is. It's often a mystery. It's a puzzle that we're trying to figure out. And so that's been a lot of fun to be able to do. And, I haven't had an attachment probably for about 6 years or so. I think I've had some over time, but probably the worst I ever had was I went to Villisca Axe Murder House a number of years ago, and I wasn't prepared for it. And I ended up coming back with something that stayed with me for a number of months and almost completely ended my desire to do any more paranormal investigating.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How did you get rid of it?
Booze? No, I'm just kidding. But but booze was part of it.
I'm all for booze.
Well, now I would have gone and done the Reiki and worked with Nicole and other folks to help get that done. But at that point, I was kind of by myself. And what was really unfortunate about that situation is that I went with some people, not all of them, but some of them who were a little reckless with how they wanted to investigate. And, I do not believe in provoking for spirits. And you know what? I'm going to be completely honest. We did at Villisca. And Villisca, are you both familiar with Villisca?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
I'm not really familiar with it. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about Villisca?
So the Villisca Axe Murder House is in a place called Villisca, Iowa, and in 1912, there was a farmhouse just in town, and it was the last day of school for the kids, and so the parents brought their kids as well as a couple of neighbor kids up to the church for a final mass for the school year. Unbeknownst to them, when there was when they were up in church, somebody else got into their house and waited in their attic. And so when they went to bed that night, the guy came out of the attic and killed everyone in the house with an axe.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
And so the thing was, no one ever found out who the murderer was, and there was not a police officer in Villisca. There was a what they call a peace officer, someone who just kind of kept things, from getting out of hand, because you're in a small town. No one expects a murder of 8 people killed in one night. And so you jump forward a number of years, about 80 years or whatever. Somebody buys the house and turns it into a location that paranormal investigators or whoever can rent out on a nightly basis and go on and do investigations. And I like to call this place the STD of the paranormal, because you get a lot of people in there, and they do their own conjuring. They do their own stuff that you probably shouldn't be doing, and it stays there. It doesn't go with people. It stays there. So you walk into this very kind of gross, sort of energetic sort of location that is, parts of it, I'm going to be honest, parts of it are evil. It's not from the family who still lives there, the spirit family that still lives there and haven't been able to pass, but it's all this other nasty stuff that has been accumulated there over the years. And so obviously when you go there, and if you don't protect yourself, you don't really know what you're doing, which, to be very honest, that was me. You leave there with a big problem. And I had something with me as soon as I left there, as soon as we're driving back, something was with me, and I knew it because I couldn't shut my eyes. Like, I couldn't fall asleep on the ride back because it's about 6 hours from where I live, and I was with other people. Every time I tried to shut my eyes, it's like something punched me in the stomach. You just know something isn't right at that point. And so the person whose car we were in, she's just like, I'm really tired. Would someone drive? I'm like, I clearly can't fall asleep. I'll drive. And when I'm driving, a bunch of the tires blew out in the vehicle, and it was very scary, because I was already freaked out because I just knew that, and that might be the start of my gifts, that I started realizing that I knew something wasn't right immediately. When I got back to my car, because we kind of parked in a shopping center to kind of meet and then go off, got back to my car, opened up the door, and it's the sweetest smell of like flowers and other things that I've ever smelled in my entire life. And it was, it might have been there to help me, but it scared me even more because there was nothing that would have created that smell. It was absolutely outrageous. And the thing is, one of my gifts that I really am in tune with are smells, scents and smells. And I can really pick up on that. And it can be very overwhelming to me very quickly. And like, spirits, they come by and I know who they are based on their smell and stuff. And then, the whole night at Villisca was great for the spirit box, but it was a nightmare for us. I mean, a lot of activity happened, and it wasn't good activity. It wasn't like pleasant. It was evil. It was dark. It was there to get in our face. You just knew, there's a point that we're there and it felt like that we weren't going to make it out alive. And that's probably an over dramatizing because we were all kind of freaked out. But, when you get that feeling in you, there's nothing worse.
You're absolutely right. So how long were you guys there investigating? Was it an overnight thing or?
Yeah, it was overnight. We got there probably around maybe 3 or something like that. They gave us kind of the run through of the place, whatever, and then we investigated until we left there around 7 in the morning. And people are like, "Oh, did you sleep there?" I'm not going to sleep at an investigation. We're there overnight. We're going to investigate overnight. And so we ended up, investigate. I mean, we really, I mean, that's not a huge house, and we just were all over the place. And that part was pretty amazing, what we were able to get and what we heard. But I didn't sleep probably for about maybe 28, 30 hours, because from the time we got there, the time we left to the time we got back home was a huge amount of time. And for some ridiculous reason, we never stopped for food. So I didn't eat all that time either. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Wow. Hey, Greg, hold on a sec. My wife says she can't hear.
Sure.
Can anybody else in the chat room hear us? We had some weather earlier, so I don't know if maybe that's an issue, or are you hearing anything? You refresh your stuff.
I think it might be the internet. It might be the internet.
But anyway, maybe Shawana, are you still there?
Oh yeah, I'm still hearing.
Okay. She found out it was her internet. But so how did you deal with that attachment, or what you called an attachment?
I just, you know what? It just, at one point, it just stopped bothering me, and that was probably about 3 months after. Like I said, now I know the people who could help me. At that time, I didn't, and I just kind of lived with it for a while. And it was pretty bad for a while. It started affecting people I worked with. Not like my mood affected them. The stuff was happening to them. Stuff that was happening to them when I got back, and the things that were hitting them. And I just, funny enough, I just found out tonight that one of my good friends who it was affecting, who I work with, he told me just tonight, and not even talking about this show or anything, that he ended up going to get holy water because it got bad enough that he needed something. And it was it was like that was frightening, the effect that it had on other people beyond just myself.
Wow, that's pretty strong. We had kind of a not exactly that way, but I had an investigator. He was technically one of our camera guys that got an attachment at a residential place that we were investigating. And, honestly speaking, when we first went in, there wasn't a lot of activity. We talked with the client and did our interview and that type of thing. And the first part of the night, you could feel things.
Yeah.
You could feel a heaviness, or now there was 2 suicides in the house in the same room by the same method, a man and a woman, like 30 years apart or something.
Okay.
But the man shot himself on one side of the room, and the lady shot herself on the other side of the room, like they were facing, that type of thing. So there was that type of history in the house. Well, when we go in and start investigating, like I said, the first part of the night, we didn't get a lot of stuff. Maybe a little noise here or noise there. Nothing on EVP, nothing on the spirit box. We very seldom got even a K2 move at all. So, but later on that night, things started kicking off, and we started getting some stuff, and we did a spirit box session upstairs. The ladies did, and got a few words that come through. Well, we got through with the investigation. We went home. Everybody went to their respective houses, and this guy contacted me. He says, "Man, something's not right." And and he had trouble night after night after night. Well, we ended up going back and doing another investigation, the second part of the investigation. Well, Shawana is the lady that a lot of times does our cleansings and that type of thing, and we'll sage and just remove negative stuff from the house. But she actually had to cleanse him.
Yep.
Um, and we did it while we were there. So, the whole thing is we'll leave it there where he got it. So, but this thing kind of tried to torture him and gave him all kinds of terrible thoughts and wouldn't let him sleep and day after day after day. And so, I think he finally got clear of it, but it took a little time and a little doing. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. Somebody's going to say a few words and poof, it's gone. That doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. And the thing about Veliska was very similar, I think, to that also, in the sense that we didn't get anything up front either. What we did get, and I'm just curious, Stan, are you able to check your Facebook Messenger?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to send you something because it kind of comes along with the story a little bit. And what happened is that we weren't getting anything up front. We were probably around, I guess maybe about 1 a.m. or something. Things started to happen, and one of the crazy things was the K2 started to go off. We had two K2s. We had a doll with us that we were told was haunted. One of those haunted dolls, whatever, and that's a story upon itself. And we put the two K2 meters there, and those were they would kept going all the way to red, each one. And Vicky, who was with us, she would be like, I only want to see the one on the right go up and not the one on the left. And the one on the left would not go off, and the one on the right would. And it kept going, back and forth. It would answer it would do exactly what we wanted through the K2. And it would alternate when we'd ask for one to go off and the other one not to go off. And the thing about that place is that there's no electricity in the house. There's the electricity there's nothing electrical in the house whatsoever. That's all been pulled out. And the picture that I'd sent you is from my video screen grab that I took, because I took video of the whole thing, of the doll on the chair with the two K2 meter just going insane. And it's it's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And that doll in itself, owned by Vicky, I went to her place just prior to the investigation, before we left, probably about a week before, and she handed me the doll, and I'm like, what is this? She goes, oh, this is a haunted doll. And I looked down, and she said to me, this is the evil one. And I swear to this day that it was one of those dolls that has the eyes that shut, the eyelids shut on it, and one went down and winked at me at that moment.
Lord.
And I
Oh,
you know
goodness
what?
gracious.
And we could say, oh, maybe you moved it or whatever. Fair enough. But that was, I didn't recall moving it. I was like, that thing winked at me. And so when we got to Veliska, Justin was our medium that was with us. And he's just like, there's a Cassandra here. And there's, she's coming through very strong. And we know there is no Cassandra that was part of the Veliska story. And I said, could it be the doll? And he just stopped, and he was clearly asking the questions. And he's like, yes, that's the doll. And he said, by the way, Cassandra loves your energy. And I was just like, okay. And he's like, do not touch that doll again.
Right. We now I'm gonna tell you straight up, I don't like dolls. Okay. We just had an investigation where the residents had a doll room, if you will. They had kind of a life-size type of a doll, and you can walk in that room and everything is just you have this sensation that just a whole bunch of people running around in the room.
Mhm.
And we were setting up equipment, and some of my investigators was in there setting up cameras. I walked into the room. I seen the doll, seen all the other dolls around. I'm like, okay, guys, I can't stand it. I can't stay in here. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
watch you on video. Okay.
Mhm.
So they got everything set up, and I could almost swear to you that big old doll that was sitting there was just staring a hole through me. It's like it could see through the camera, right through right through into my soul or something, and
Oh yeah.
it was amazing. So no, I don't do dolls. Try not to anyway.
Yeah.
And I mean, we got some great stuff there, and we went back to reveal to the family what we found and stuff, and we asked them a question. If they'd had it, or I always ask them, have you had any more activity since we were gone? And the lady told me, she says she was in the room with the dolls, and she was across the room, and then all of a sudden, most of the dolls she had on the dresser just tumbled off into the floor. And she said that's never happened before. And if you could go in and see this situation, there's no way that it could just fall off.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back and investigate again. They want us to come back. We got some really good stuff that helped them realize what was going on. And so we're going to go back and see if we can do a little more connection with these dolls. But
Okay.
K2 stuff is one of my things. I love working with the K2. And when you can have situations like you had, the two K2s going off in sequence, when you're asking questions, left and right and that type of thing, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Love it. Yeah.
And we actually went to a cemetery and done an investigation. It was William Harrison Grantzer.
Okay.
William Grantzer Harrison, I'm sorry. It's one of Alabama's 13 ghosts. And we used 5 K2s on that investigation. And each one of the K2s would light up differently at different times. We could ask any question and say, set off number 3, and it would do that. And so that validation, when you got people that can, or spirits that's around that can physically manipulate that enough to set them off, that one off and not that one, and they're so close together, then that's just amazing to me.
Yeah, I agree, very much so.
Yeah. So Shawana, you got some more stuff?
I do. I wanted Greg to tell us about his web series that he has going on. If you can speak on that for a little bit, Greg.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Web series. It's kind of strange because when I started talking to people about that we want to do a web series, a lot of people immediately jump to, oh, you want to do a TV show, then you want to be on TV, you want to do this. Like, no, my background is one of television and film production, and all I wanted to do was tell the stories of some of the places that we went and investigated. So I ended up wanting to do the Minnesota Ghostbox web series as a way to go into places, be able to do investigation, and also edit these things into kind of a story and to see if I could make it work or not, and see what came up with. And we did that. We shot at 5 locations over the course of about 6 months. That was about 3 years ago. And the one thing that I didn't quite understand was how much work that it is to put one of these together when you're kind of the only one shooting and you're only one that's editing. And that's not a slight on anyone who was involved with me. It was just like, this is, it was my thing. I'm putting this together, and it's really hard work. And I like to think that when I look at them, that although they're not perfect by any means, that I look at them and I'm like, gosh, these are really good. There's a lot of good stuff in them as far as being able to tell the story and stuff. And we went to places, in Minnesota, like the Palmer House. We went to Soap Factory, is amazing. Then we also went out to we went out to Iowa, went to a private investigation in Iowa, which was off the charts. And we also did a Masonic Lodge in Newport, Kentucky, which actually ended up being about 8 miles away from Bobby Mackey's Music World. And we went there and investigated too. And it's just, it's just one of those things that we wanted to just tell the story of these places. And each web episode is about 15 to 19 minutes in length. And each location is two episodes per location. And it's on my YouTube page, Minnesota Ghostbox Official. And I'm sorry it always sounds kind of snooty when it's like Minnesota Ghostbox Official, but I chose official because it just wouldn't let me use Minnesota Ghostbox, which was kind of silly. But I think they're really good, and that series has kind of run its course. I mean, I still have episodes to edit, and I will. But I'm working on a new web series right now that I have some people involved with, and we're trying to find some locations, which going to paranormal show, going to locations and investigating, that's kind of the norm. But we kind of thought of about a different way of doing it, and kind of focusing on a separate sector of Americana to be able to get in and do these episodes. So hopefully we can start shooting sometime in August and have something, and do a lot less of them than I tried to plan for the Ghostbox web series, and have those out sometime early next year.
That's cool. Yeah, we're gonna watch for that. That's for sure. Hey, Greg, I got to notice them. We're just a little over. We usually take about a 10-minute break. So kind of like paying the bills, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So if everybody kind of hang on, we're going to take a few minutes break. And everybody, we want to thank you for being here with us on Wiregrass Haunts. We have a great guest tonight, Greg Bakun, and he's giving us some good stuff. So before we go on break, though, we're going to be giving away one ticket to the Mid-South Paracon, and that's in Louisville, Kentucky. We gave one away at the last show. Miss Vera won that one. So we're going to give this one away to someone that can answer this trivia question for me. What is the name of the star that plays Venkman on the Ghostbusters? What is the name of the star that plays Venkman on the Ghostbusters? All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll be back in a few minutes, so y'all hang around.
Flying Are you struggling with credit issues? Bad credit keeping you from pursuing all your dreams? Coleman Credit Repair is here and will get you back on top. It does not matter whether you have had any negative marks on your credit report, repossessions, bankruptcies, foreclosures, tax liens, medical bills, student loans. All of these things are negative to your credit report. However, Coleman Credit Recovery can help you and your credit recover in a way that will make you feel like you are back on top of it all. Give Shawana Coleman a call today and find out for yourself how Coleman Credit Recovery can get you back on top of your game. Call today at 334-405-4351. Again, the number is 334-405-4351. The only regret you might have is not calling Coleman Credit Recovery sooner.
You're listening to Wiregrass Homes on the Voices Carrier Radio Network.
Are you looking for web design, press releases, blog posts, product descriptions, academic writing to cheat in class, social media marketing, and even logo design? Don't worry, there's a lot more, but I'm not going to list them right here. You need to visit Arden Marketing Enterprises at arden-ent.com. That's ARDEN-ENT.com. Or, if you would like to speak personally to the owner of Arden Marketing Enterprises, call Teresa Fikes at 334-648-1214. Again, Teresa Fikes at 334-648-1214. Get on it. Do you want to have family portraits made but can't afford the costly photographers out there? Do you want to help someone local grow their business with low-priced, budget-friendly photo shoots? Would you rather have someone who is understanding of what you need in a photo of your family? Want someone who will listen when you have ideas during your photo shoot? Call Trista Yates Photography. We do newborn, senior, family, professional headshots, as well as birthday shoots to celebrate every year of your child's life. Need a holiday photo? One for your Christmas card? Look up Trista Yates Photography on Facebook and give her page a look. Great photos, better pricing. You won't be disappointed. Call Trista Yates Photography at 334-718-8840. Again, 334-718-8840.
You're listening to Wiregrass Homes on the Voices Carrier Radio Network.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Wiregrass Haunts. I want to thank everybody for listening and bearing with my little mid thing there. I do have an announcement. We have a winner of our last Paracon ticket. It's Zachariah Roach. He gave the correct answer to the question.
Yay, Zach.
So everybody can congratulate Zach. And now, guys, we have a great guest tonight, Mr. Greg Bakun. He is he has a show. It's in Minnesota Spirit Box. He has given us some great information already. So we're gonna go in a little bit of different direction on the second part of the show. So I hope everybody can come on and ask some questions if you want to. By all means, ask some questions, and I'll see if I can't get them over to Greg. So, Greg, are you still with us, brother?
I sure am.
Sorry, we got an Amber Alert.
Sorry about that. We kind of got an Amber Alert on our phones.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Yeah. But anyway, so, Greg, and this is something I was going to ask you earlier, and I got off on something else, but what is the best Spirit Box response you have ever gotten?
That's a good question. There's a couple that come to, boy, it's tough because a couple come to mind. Some, like if you want to go for a scary one, there's some good ones, just some interesting ones. Can I give you a couple examples?
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Probably one of my favorites is at a place called the Soap Factory in St. Anthony, Maine, Minnesota, which is the birthplace of Minneapolis. It's a very old building, and it's actually on the Soap Factory web episode, the second part, if you want to hear it. But it's a bunch of us were hanging down in the basement, which is crazy, ridiculously haunted. And I was not using an SB7. I was using a Radio Shack, or actually a Sangean radio. It's a hack, so it wasn't the same kind of white noise. But we were down there, and we saw this kind of black mass move between all of us. And I was like, well, none of us thought it was evil. I thought it was a dog. And so I'm like, is somebody's dog here? And the response that we got from the Sangean was, "That's my dog." Same voice for the entire sentence, which was
Wow,
absolutely fantastic. I absolutely was like, this is really, really cool. So I was really excited about that. A couple of weeks ago, I posted on my website. I posted. I'm trying to find it here real fast. I went to a cemetery where my dad's buried, and I got one of my new favorite responses was 3 words, or actually 3 kind of sentences that came out at once, and you had to listen to it a couple times to get it. But I think it might have been residual, and the response was, "Good boy, now come on, let's go." And that's on my website. And it was just like, I just think it was somebody talking to a dog, to be honest. Once again, this dog theme coming through. And I thought that was really good. Other people have come back to me and said, well, I don't think that's what it sounds like. And they've given their thoughts to it, and that's totally fine. It was just like, to me, that's just what I keep listening to it. I think, gosh, that's pretty much it. I think that's what it is. Then, of course, you go to something like Veliska again, and I certainly got Satan come through the Spirit Box, the name Satan. And then I got, which opens all my web series, one of the responses is 6 people killed. And it says that a number of times within the same period, which is really odd because at Veliska, there wasn't 6 people killed, there were 8. So you got to wonder what was that all about, but it said it over and over and over again, and I just thought, oh, these are great. I just love it when you get some really good Spirit Box responses.
Oh yeah, definitely. We got some not too long ago that we're getting ready to put on our webpage, and so I'm going to go over and listen to those. I'm all for listening to stuff like that. But
Cool.
so when you heard the name Satan, did you was there like bad stuff going on at that time, or
Oh
did
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing about that was we were up in the parents' bedroom, and the one thing that when I listened to the recordings, and I haven't listened to them all, and that was let's see, 4 or 5 years ago now. I don't like to listen to them, to be very honest. And when you listen to that, one of the things I keep asking is who are you? What's your name? And we were up in the parents' bedroom, and a couple of people were provoking a little bit, and they were starting to get affected by it. And you can hear on the recording the spirit box going, and then you hear the someone says Greg, and you know that's not from the spirit box. It sounds like it's actually from somebody else. And so I say in the recording, I'm like, did someone say my name? And then I'm talking to the people in the room, and they're all like, no. And I said, well, you know my name. What is your name? And then the response is Satan. And
wow.
Here's the thing, right? We know it's not Satan. And
Right.
and I say that at the time, and I say, no, come on, no, that's not Satan. You're ridiculous. But it's still scary. It's still, frightening. And it's not like a deep voice going like Satan. It's just like very, sometimes you get this voice on the spirit box. It's almost like announcer, like Satan, just like really, it's just so not what you'd expect, but it's enough to get the point across. And that was very interesting that night. It's actually one of my favorite responses because it's so crazy. It's really indicative of that whole night.
Well, would you think that maybe a spirit was trying to be a smart ass or something, and well,
Absolutely.
this is Satan.
I think and I think smartass is kind of getting them off a little bit. I think it's intimidation, straight up intimidation, of trying to put fear into us, trying to get us out of there, trying to maybe make us make a mistake that could hurt us.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I do not think that when we were upstairs, and you kind of talked about earlier how you didn't have anything going on at that one location, and I mentioned the same thing. But once we got started to get that stuff rolling through, we decided to go upstairs where the parents' bedroom was. And here's the funny thing that I didn't realize at the time was I said that the killer hid in the attic. Well, to me, an attic is like the very top floor. Like there's nothing else up there. At this house, the attic's on the same level as the parents' bedroom and the kids' bedroom. So while they're getting ready for bed that night, when they're getting ready to do whatever they needed to do, they are in the company of a murderer, and they don't know it yet. And this person is waiting for them. He's just biding his time. So when we went upstairs to do our investigation up there at 3 a.m. or whatever it was, you could like pretty much cut out like the air. The air was so full it was so heavy. It was so ridiculous. I never, even since, I've not felt anything as like just really hanging on you when you're going upstairs and you're like, am I ever coming back downstairs? It was absolutely just nasty. So going up there, there was just a lot of bad stuff going up there, which eventually led to that and led to other those spirit box responses and stuff, and it was crazy.
It sounds like it. That to be in a situation to where you have an investigation that you're something crazy like an axe murder in the house that's occurred. You guys had to be charged. For days on that one. I know I would have.
Yeah. It's funny about that place, and this is something I'd like to investigate more at one point. Not necessarily an investigation of the house again, which I would want to go back there, but I've talked to people who've been there and they're like, nothing happened to me. Nothing happened to me at all. I don't know what the fuss is about, but there was nothing there. And, you have me who is just like, my life changed when I went in there. There's two very opposite ends of the spectrum there. And I'm very curious about that, why that would be, and how many other people fall within those two ends of the spectrum or anywhere in between. I find that very fascinating.
Yeah, that is fascinating. I mean, how it would affect one person and not affect someone standing next to them. And we've run into the same thing, and that is kind of odd.
Well, I mean, the people everyone with me, they all felt the same thing. But I'm talking about just like you see people later, and you're like, oh, I went to Villisca, and like, oh yeah, I've been there. Nothing happened to me there, and I'm like, well, everything happened to me there. So I find that very, very interesting about how. It is two very different groups of people who, I wonder about, is it their approach? Is it their belief system? It's all sorts of things that makes me wonder, like, what could that possibly be?
So how many folks did you guys have with you?
For Villisca, I was with, 3 other people. It was 4 of us total.
Now, sometimes I will take, including the client, I will bring everybody that's on the investigation into one room. Most of the time, it's the room that most of the activity was reported in, because what I'm trying to do is give that room energy.
Mm-hmm.
And the spirits that are moving, back and forth, maybe they can pick up on some of that energy to come through and communicate, and we'll do a spirit box or a Sono X12 experiment, or just raw EVPs.
Mm-hmm.
And, I find that the more energy you have in a place, the more you have a chance of being affected by the energies that's already there.
Mm-hmm.
And, these spirits, I think, pick out people, whether they be weak or one of the strongest ones in the room or whatever, one that's emitting the most energy, or they're just hyped up about being in the whole situation. I find sometimes that those spirits will manipulate those people.
Mm-hmm.
And that they've done that to some of my team members. But of course, it started off slow, and then as the energy ramped up from everybody going in, doing things and that type of thing, they started, the energy started picking up. But of course, when spirits gets pissed off because you got someone in that wants to provoke, or wants to say ugly things, or whatever, and we try to give the spirits respect just like we would a person.
Yeah. And,
I find that kind of backfires on people, if you know what I mean. So that whole situation of, like, the last investigation we went on, their cabinets opened and doors opened and that type of thing. I was explaining to them that I think when a spirit crosses that veil, it has to have energy, of course, but the energy that it drags across has the momentum or ability, rather, to either open that cabinet or even affect that investigator that's standing there if it crosses near them, or gets to near them, or something like that. So,
sure.
When people, you go in and do that investigation, and other people are telling you they didn't get anything there because they went at a later date, maybe it's simply that they just did not have the energy for those people to experience that, the same thing that you experienced.
It could be. It's interesting that someone, the week after we were there, someone went in there and ended up stabbing himself in there, in the house.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that was a bunch of negative energy for sure.
That or a crazy person.
Wow.
And that's one of the things that about that house is like it really I think it draws that out of people. I've known a lot of friends who are investigators who have gone down there who do not provoke, and they'll come back saying, you know what, we ended up provoking. That's not what we do, but we were down there, we provoked. And I think that house does bring out that sort of negativity in people. Like, people want to kind of, I think your instinct is to challenge it in some way. And I think that's what happens at that house. You challenge it, and then all hell breaks loose.
Right. I have a kind of well, maybe it's a statement in the chat room, Miss Vera Haney. She says maybe it depends on the spirits being present at that particular time.
Yeah, I mean, they need to be there to make anything happen. I mean, that's just it. I mean, that's the interesting thing, in my opinion, about all of this is like it could be a lot of different variables, and maybe all the variables have to line up for what happened to us or what happened to other people. I do think, though, that it happens to people more often than not at that house. But to your point, Stan, I think that you also run into situations. I've gone to places where I've been there a number of times, and you can tell that the spirits are fatigued. To your point that, sometimes they just, even if you're going there to be just an investigation and not, that they're there, but you just want to get responses. Sometimes you just do that. And they're just like, you know what, people have been here investigating us for like 2 weeks, and we are really tired, and we want to be left alone for a while. And that's where you get like a very quiet night at some of these places.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they get tired too,
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yes. I got a couple more quick questions, and I'm gonna let Shawana ask you some. On your when you're doing spirit box sessions, have you ever had anything that you would believe that would be extraterrestrial?
Yeah. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I do. And as it happens, I think that we got something over at Bobby Mackey's. And that was once again where it was kind of the spirit box would validate what Nicole was doing. And we also did some flashlight sessions there too, which I know that not everyone's really thrilled with flashlights. But, when you're asking a question and it doesn't light up, and then you ask the question and it lights up, and then it goes dark, you can't help but just wonder what's going on there. And we believe that we spoke with someone who was not of this world, that was not a spirit. And that was really cool. I did a live spirit box session once where we tried to reach aliens. I'm probably going to do that again, where it's just specifically like we're not trying to reach spirits. We're trying to reach aliens. And we were getting some responses to it. Also, I think that there's a way to build a spirit box that you can grab. You go high enough in your frequencies that you're going into areas that could get attention of aliens. That's my theory, at least.
Right. Huh. I hadn't really thought about it that way.
Because I want to do that. I want to be able to build that device that you could talk to spirits and aliens and whatnot. I think that is a possibility.
Well, so you kind of answered my second question too. What your belief was about aliens visiting us here. I mean, do you think that they come on a flying saucer, or some teleportation, or how do you think that happens?
I would love them to tell me how it happens and show me.
Right.
In my mind, I just got done on my show. A couple weeks ago I had Barry Strom on, and Barry he channels historical figures. He also channels aliens, and he has a alien guide that comes through when he channels all the time. And one of the things that he had mentioned was, that the technology had moved along far enough that aliens can travel very, very vast different spaces in very short amount of time. I've always thought that if you are talking about aliens coming and visiting the planet, and if this is really something that could happen, that you could believe, I could believe wormholes would be a big possibility for those. And if you talk to like someone like Andrea Perrin, she's going to tell you that they're basically everywhere, but they are all cloaked. And that it doesn't take much to bring them out. And so there's a lot of different, a lot of different theories on it. But I think, ultimately, I don't know how they do it, but I do believe that we are visited, and I think there's a lot more to it than we possibly could know.
So maybe time travel would be a way of them doing it as well. I mean, surely if they're that far advanced and they're coming from deep in space, I mean, surely they're not on the moon or the Mars or Saturn or anywhere like that.
Yeah.
So they would have to maybe do a time travel or like you said, a wormhole, which, would be back into the association of time travel. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I would love for an alien to tell me. I'd love to have some definitive answers because, there's a lot of misdirection out there, a lot of fake, a lot of people faking stuff and whatever. And it's like, well, what is real? Because I don't know. I mean, the people I brought up, they all firmly believe what they're telling us, but is that really accurate or not? I just don't know. But I'd love to be able to get like a definitive, like, this is what's happening. And I don't know if we'll ever see that. Who knows?
That's something to work towards. I mean, we have a lot of gray area in this field. So, and of course, there's no experts on any of this stuff. So everything is out in the open. So,
yeah, it sure is. It sure is. Barry Strom believes that we are going to we will see aliens. Like, it will be like we're going to get that big visitation from them in about 3 years' time.
Wow.
Yeah. That'd be great. I'm all for it.
Sure. Hey, come talk, guys. We'll have you on the radio show.
Yeah.
So, Shawana, you got some questions before we go?
I do. I know you were talking earlier, Greg, about having an attachment from the Velisca house.
Yep.
But I wanted to ask, have you ever just seen or had a full possession yourself or seen someone fully possessed?
I have seen people who have channeled, but I've not seen anyone fully possessed. And I myself have not been fully possessed, or I don't think possessed or anything like that. You sometimes, and I don't know about you two, sometimes you go into situations where people don't look like that they have their face, right? That they're not speaking with their face. They're not, that they are the people that you're talking to. They look like it, but there's something not quite right with them. And that maybe for a second that it's someone else speaking for them or something else is happening. I was at the Hannah House a number of years ago, and the psychic medium there, Ursula Kalin, she got into kind of an argument with one of the people there because the guy who was talking to her firmly believed what he was saying about the afterlife. Not like this is a possibility of what it's like. He's like, this is what it's like. This is how it works. And her and him kind of got into it. And I had talked to her afterwards. I said, the thing I noticed about this, which I thought was really interesting, was that, I was with him all night. And when he was talking to her about that and being so defiant, and the whole night he hardly said anything, he was so defiant, but he didn't look like himself. It's like there was something off about him. And I thought, that's really interesting. And I've seen that with people a couple times since then, when you're talking with them about things and suddenly they're not saying something the way that you expect them to, and you look at them and you look at their eyes and stuff, and it's not them. It's their body, but it's not them, and I find that very interesting.
You are absolutely right. That is interesting. I've seen people that, and again back to our investigator that had an attachment. he didn't seem himself,
Mm-hmm.
and he spoke kind of with no feeling whatsoever. I mean, everything was just blah and just right straight across. And I mean, it was just kind of hard to explain, but it, it, it's it's something that you would just have to experience. And so when you run into that, that's could be very well be just a spirit not possessing or just affecting. Affecting
Mm-hmm.
is the word that I'm looking for. It's been a long day. You'll have to excuse me, but um, affecting a person is pretty easy for a spirit. Yeah, even your seasoned pros at a investigation, if you will, uh, they can be affected. And of course, if you want to talk about TV shows as affected, then we all know there's a TV show and there's an investigator that gets affected every episode.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying that he doesn't, but I'm just, it's, you can't be possessed every other episode and
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something wrong with him if he's actually getting it if he's actually truly getting it, because it's kind of like you got to take care of yourself, and because unless you're trying to do so and he's not trying to do it, at least apparently, then there's something amiss, something not quite right.
Well, sure. I mean, you get somebody that gets a spirit attachment or even a possession, it's not a week later they're perfectly fine and they go back and do the same thing and get possessed again.
Mm-hmm.
That to me that doesn't happen, because first off, if you get possessions, it's not quite that easy. Everything that I've seen is not that easy, and there's 3 stages of possession, and if this spirit is strong enough to jump into somebody's body, then it's strong enough to not just jump right out. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna stay there, and then of course you have to get the church involved and that type of thing. So, and that's what I've run into about people asking me about TV episodes, and I was going to ask you that. How do you think that TV shows have affected the paranormal field? Do you think it's a negative thing, or what do you think about that?
It's tough because I do think it's more negative than good. And you're talking to someone who got into deciding to actually do something about the paranormal from watching TV shows, and not all of them are annoying, but you know the type, Stan, when you're talking to people and everyone wants to be, a Zach Bagans, and everybody wants to do things a certain way. And it's like, there's more to it than, having, black hair that sticks up and that you wear tight T-shirts and stuff. I mean, at least I think there is, because I can't do any of that. I figure that, there's too many people. And the thing too is, like, there's so many people who feel like that they want to, like, be on a TV show. Like, they're really angling to get their moments of fame and whatnot. And it's really, like, it's annoying to watch sometimes. Like, you have people on Facebook who every day who clearly are into the paranormal, but all they do is, like, post selfies of themselves on Facebook and stuff. But you never see anything about any investigations or anything. It's like, that's their prerogative. They can do that, but it's like, what are you really into this for? What is your purpose for being here? And I find that to be, I feel like you can suss those type of people off pretty quickly.
I agree, and this my personal belief on the TV shows. I think they spread a lot of them, not every one of them. Now, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think they spread a negative idea on this field simply because you've got people like Zach Bagans, and I'll use him for because I used to watch Ghost Adventures.
Mm-hmm.
He is causing these teenagers and these young people that have no idea what they're doing, what they're getting into. They're going on Amazon, buying a K2 or spirit box or whatever, and going out here in a cemetery or some place that they're not allowed in.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get permission to be there, and they're trying to contact something, and the first thing they want to do is provoke this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as well as I do, provoking is not a healthy thing.
No.
And they can cause things to jump on them and give them problems. Maybe not possess them, but they'll have an attachment like you and I have had.
Mm-hmm.
And and playing with the Ouija board, and I agree with Keith Age. It was on the previous show. It's what you put into that.
Yeah.
Your energy that you give that board can really do some damage. And sure, I don't think that the game needs to be sold at Walmart for $8 or whatever it is to these kids that's going to play with it. Okay? They're giving it their energy. They're playing with it. They're trying to talk to the spirit world. Well, you and I both have talked to the spirit world, and sometimes it's not that peachy.
No.
And I think that's what I think some of these TV shows are portraying. It's cool to go out here and provoke a spirit, if indeed they contact a spirit in any way, and then they're gonna turn around and start provoking it.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? That could have been that axe murderer they contacted, and what's going to happen then?
Yeah. I mean, but I personally don't believe that Ouija boards, because I know a lot of people feel like that the moment you go onto a Ouija board that you're connecting with something evil, and people will say, well, you don't know what you're connecting to. The thing is, though, I don't see it any different than any other type of spirit communication device. Like a spirit box. You're doing the same thing. You're not using a board to do it, but you are requesting a spirit to talk to you. Same with EVPs, same with flashlights, same with K2s. I do not believe that the Ouija board itself, there is that intent. There's also what you want to try to get into it. I know somebody who would cut himself and smear his blood onto the Ouija board to try to get responses, which in my mind is that's insane.
Right.
But I think that like you said, does it need to be sold at Target? No, it doesn't. I don't think. But it's like in my opinion, people who think, oh, the second I put that on and put that planchette on the board and I'm communicating, I'm doomed. I got something bad.
No,
I don't think that that's going to be the case.
No, I don't think that either. But I asked someone one time to tell me the difference between the use of a spirit board and a spirit box, or a Ouija board and a spirit box.
Yep.
And the energy that you put towards the board is what the spirit uses. With a spirit box, it has its own energy that the spirit itself uses, and it's kind of like leaving you're not the in-between person at this point. The same way with EVPs, and it uses the energy that the device has. And with a Ouija board, you give that board your energy, which that makes it a device with energy at that point. And that was the way that I was taught about it. And I've seen some strange things with the Ouija board, but there was a whole lot more involved than just a Ouija board.
Sure. And if you go off the example of using your energy on the Ouija board to move the planchette, it doesn't mean, though, that it's going to bring evil.
Oh, no, it doesn't. you have to allow stuff like that, and I believe, and so, but you're gonna eventually, if you do either with a spirit box or any type of device in the paranormal field, eventually you're gonna have contact with a negative spirit.
You will.
And
You will. But I would counter that also by one of the things that I do, and I don't know if you all do this when you're like starting your spirit box session, or if you're starting your investigation, that you bubble yourself, that you protect yourself, and that you set your intention of who you want to talk to. Like we say, we only want to talk to love and above. We don't want to talk. I mean, some people think that's corny. Some people don't like that, but there's times that we go into places that people are like, this place is evil, and we don't get any of that because we set that intention. I don't want to talk to jerk spirits. I want to talk to spirits who want to talk to us. And maybe that's a kind of a skewed way of doing a paranormal investigation, because I think a lot of people want to get whatever they can get. But honestly, it's like, I want to be able to get someone who's going to actually, a spirit that's going to get something out of our communication, not just try to scare us. You know what I mean?
Sure. Do good for the spirit. And yeah, I agree. That's true. All right. Well, brother, it is 10 o'clock, and we got to kind of call it a day.
Sounds good.
We do appreciate you being on the show. It was awesome.
Well, thank you very much. That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, and we definitely want you to come back. And
thank you.
We, especially you can tell us some more about your spirit box stuff, activity, and stuff that you've got going on. And you want to tell everybody about your show and about your website and stuff?
Sure. Where you can get all of that, you go over to the Minnesota Ghostbox website. It's www.mn-ghostbox.org, and that has the web series. It has a lot of spirit communication and all good stuff, and archived episodes of my radio show. So please stop over there if you can.
Absolutely. Well, everybody heard that, and please go and give him some love, if you will. And well, Greg, brother, we certainly appreciate you being on the show. We loved it. And Shawana, are you still with me?
Yes, I am here. I'm saying thank you. And I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us. And tell us real quick again about the web series, when you believe that's going to be up, so we can make sure we jump right in to support you, and how we can keep up with it.
Well, we got episodes up there now on the Minnesota Ghostbox website, and then probably the new one we'll probably have out sometime next year.
That's cool.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna.
Well, thank you.
Support you.
Thank you so much.
Will.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. Well, everybody, we thank you for listening to Wiregrass Haunts. I know we've had a long night, and we loved every minute of it. And again, we thank Greg for being with us, and we just hope everybody can come back next week. We have the cast of Mysteries Explained, Becky Gideson and Dave Clark, next week, and that's kind of a redo as well. We had some technical incidents with them as well. That was a great show, even though nobody heard it. So y'all come back next week and listen in, and we're kind of picking up things, and we got a lot of lineups and stuff. Great people going to be on the show coming real soon. And remember, everybody on Voices Carry Radio Network, come listening Tuesday to Wiregrass Haunts, Wednesday to Voices Carry, Thursday to Mysteries Explained, and Friday to Seeing the Unseen. So, guys, we wish everybody a great night, and just y'all come back next week. Thanks, Shawana.
Thank you, Greg.
All righty. Thank you.
feeling with my China girl. I feel a wreck without my little China girl. I hear her heart beating loud as thunder. So the stars crashing. I'm a mess without my little China girl. Wake up in the morning with my little China girl. I hear hearts beating loud as thunder. I saw the stars crashing down. I feel tragic like I'm Marlon Brando when I look at my China girl. And I could pretend nothing really meant too much when I look at my China girl. I stumble into town just like a sacred cow. Visions of swastikas in my head, plans for everyone. It's in the way of my eyes. My little China girl, you shouldn't mess with me. I'll ruin everything you are.